Hey, welcome to ABCD of Blockchain with me, Bishal Ghimire. Today we're going to start a new series, ABCD of Blockchain. So by ABCD we mean it's an absolute beginner series. So no prior knowledge is required other than basic understanding of computer science and related terms. I will even explain what and how a traditional database works. We will be guiding you through all the topics related to blockchain. We'll be covering one topic at a time, such as A for addresses, B for blockchain, and so on. So without further ado, let's get started. So for A, we'll be covering our today's topics, that's address. Then we'll have apps, APIs, ASIC, auditing, and all those things. So let's start with something we know already. That's it. That is email addresses. So before we go to the addresses of blockchain, I think I will be starting with email address so that we are all familiar with these topics. So let's get started with Gmail. Let's assume that here I have 10 different email addresses I have shown on the right hand side, for which it's the same email address for my name at Gmail. So what's the difference? The difference is that I can add my .name at Gmail. So I can append a dot anywhere between my email addresses in Gmail. Same is the case is for my.na.me at gmail.com. It's all the same addresses. But let's go down over here, particularly at the bottom. This is very useful because I have my name plus some string attached and then at Gmail. All these different email addresses points to the same email address, my name at gmail.com. So how is this useful? So I am an iOS developer by profession. So I need to access the site called Apple's iTunes, where the iOS apps are managed. But I work with lots of different clients. So some are small persons, some are big companies, corporate houses. Some client will be happy to give me their username and password, whereas other would like to add me as a developer and manage their teams and hierarchies. So if the client wants to add me to iTunes Connects, what I do is that I will give them my email address in the form that bishal.ghimire plus the company name at gmail.com. So there are different clients with same email address that I can use as my Gmail, but the client thinks that they will have a different email address for each of them, so that even the iTunes Connects will log in me to the different account of my clients. In this way I can manage different accounts, different clients with a single email address. This is very similar to how a Bitcoin address will be working. So I'm giving this example so we are clear that the address of email ID is also a dynamic thing, just like our Bitcoin address. So here let's start with Alice. If you look at Alice, she's a girl who has just signed up for a Bitcoin. When she does sign up for a Bitcoin, she will have two keys. One is a private key and another is a public key. So private key is used to identify her. Technically, it is used to decrypt the transaction receipt. Okay, let's discard all the technical part and don't even remember that what decrypt means or transaction means. Just think that it is something that will identify her. It's like her email address. It's a private thing. Let's say there is another thing called public key, which we will be using address to get the payment. So let's again define what addresses is in cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency addresses are used to send or receive transaction on a network. An address usually presents itself as a string or alphanumeric character. Oh my god, don't even look at this definition or don't try to remember this definition. Just think that addresses are something that you will give someone so that you can get a payment, right? Just like your email address, you give it to someone so that you can get an email. So first thing we will define is a private key. It's large randomly generated number. It's a private, it's only for you. Then there is a public key, which is generated from the given private key once you have signed up for Bitcoin. And then there is address generated from the public key. So how will we remember which is what? So for public only you share, let's say for your email address and password combination is a private key. So that if you know your email address and if you know your password, I can verify that, or Gmail or any other system can verify that it is you. It's your email address and it's your password. That's a private key, right? What is public key? Public key is just like your email. If you give it to someone, they can send you the email, but they cannot verify that it's their email address, right? So it's a public key. And then there is address. In case of address, we have something like this in the IP address in the computers, like 74.125.24.103. This is how computer works. There is something called DNS. There is how the internet works. When the computer talks to one another, it will send a IP address to another computer. But if we go to the website or browser, what we do as a person is that we types google.com. That's a domain name address. Similarly, for computers, the things are different for addresses. It's a long bit of string. There are lots of integers over there. There are numbers over there which we can't remember. So what we use is we use google.com. We don't use IP address, right? So if you want to see how the Bitcoin request arm work, let me show you an example. Here is one long string which is called address, which we are talking about. So once we copy the address, we'll be getting the address of the Bitcoin. So this is the key we share with other clients and other users. So in this case, we will take step by step. First, the Sally creates a Bitcoin wallet which has a public key, which is shown over here. She also has a private key, but using the private key, the public key is generated, and the public key is shared to Ghim, which is her public key. So what does Sally has to do is that Sally has to transfer a 1 Bitcoin to Sally. So what he does in the system is that he will transfer a 1 Bitcoin to that key. So far, Ghim might not know who the Sally is. He only has the address where he transfers the Bitcoin. So now, if the system is updated or if the ledger is updated, we can see that Sally has 1 Bitcoin on her wallet after the transaction is complete. So here is something about the public key versus private key things. How are the things public or how are the things private? Public key is shareable. It's generated from private key using an elliptical call function. In the right hand side, we can see the elliptical call function, where if you know the points P and Q, you can extrapolate and draw a line which cuts the curve at point R. So it's easy to draw, right? From any mathematical function or any equation, if you solve, we can have a point R if I have given you P and Q. But same thing doesn't apply on a backtrack. It's like if I have given you point R, you can never go back and say that the R was derived from point Q and point P. So that's how public key and private key works. So that private key are always linked to the public key, but public key can never be reversed back to know where it was derived from the private key. That's how public and private key works in the encryption. So what are the Bitcoin keys? Of course, it's just a key. It's a software and we can write it down on a paper, but normally it's very long. It's a 24-bit random number. For display purposes, we use 64 hexadecimal for display, just like shown over here. Now we will be slightly technical about how it are generated, but we don't have to understand all those parts. It's just for overview. So here is the script. The script has shown lots of algorithms and flow how the addresses are generated. There are person number, there are 256 base 5 hash, there is a checksum of 32-bit. There are all those things that goes into the script and the addresses are generated. But don't worry about this script. We won't go over this at now. Just understand that there is a flow, there is some script that we need to know that Bitcoin will be generated. So the address generation steps has a public key. Then we apply a SHA-256 hashing algorithm. Then again we apply another hashing algorithm. Then we have a public key. Then we use base 56.6. This is all to make it more short and more readable form. Even if you need to type it sometime, or if you need to write it down, you can do it. So it's not practical to do it to always write it down, but at least doing this it will be easier. So I will just go over this, and first we'll have a person, and then we have a payload, and then we'll apply a SHA-256 2 times, and then again we add a checksum, then again we add a base 56. All these steps go through to get a string or a number or address which is readable to human being also. So doing so, there can be some confusion about the 0 and O and capital L or L depending upon the fonts of the computer. So what we do is that we exclude zeros, capital O's, capital I's, lowercase l, and forward hash and etc. And doing so, we get address, which is called our Bitcoin address. Thank you. I hope you understand the basic of Bitcoin addresses, how it's generated and how it's used. Come back for the next series. Take care. Thank you.